Sure.
So, welcome everyone to our first NAEIC webinar of 2024, and actually our 20th NAEIC webinar so far. So we've been doing these for quite a long time now. And please remember to keep in your calendar that the webinars we host most months, and it's on the third Wednesday of the month at 3:30 p.m. And I'm very happy today to be able to introduce my colleague, Mariano Méndez, who is also at the Kapteyn Institute in Groningen. He grew up in Argentina. He studied and completed his PhD and has had postdoc and staff positions in Argentina, the Netherlands, and Germany. And since 2007, he's been professor of high-energy astrophysics at Kapteyn. In addition to his scientific career, Mariano has helped promote science in developing countries, developing a program of education on space science for the benefit of a large community of young scientists in developing countries, and raised funds for several international organizations to carry out a program of capacity building workshops on space science, which have so far trained more than 1,500 participants from over 50 countries. And Mariano is currently the director of the IHOUT program in the IAU, and in 2018 received the COSPAR Distinguished Service Medal, and in last year got the Jocelyn Burnell Inspiration Medal from the EAS for work over decades of setting up these programs. Also has an asteroid named after him. So without further ado, I will let Mariano begin. You have the floor.
Jake. Yes, thank you, Jake. I'm now sharing my screen, and I think you can see it from what I see here, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, I have to minimize the screen with you so I don't see you. So welcome to my talk, everyone. Thanks for inviting me, Jake, and also Ralph Byers, who contacted me initially. I am Mariano Méndez, originally from Argentina, as Jake mentioned, but living in the Netherlands for the last 25 years. And if all of you are Dutch and have questions in Dutch, I can speak Dutch. I'm a professor in high-energy astrophysics, so I'm a researcher, a lecturer and researcher. But at some point, as I will explain later, there was an opportunity to do what I'm doing, going to talk about today, which I liked. For the last 20 years, a bit longer than 20 years, I've been participating of this initiative and then actually taking the lead of the initiative. So this is the IHOW from IAU hands-on workshops. That's the acronym. I don't know if it's a good acronym, but when we put the proposal to the IAU, we wrote a working title and it remained. And the COSPAR capacity building initiatives, both of which I've been member or chair or whatever, as indicated there. And in this initial slide, I show pictures of some of the workshops we organized, and I will get to that later. Just a minute. Okay, so the idea behind the whole program is to build capacity in developing countries with COSPAR was on space science, not just astronomy. With the IAU is only astronomy. By teaching them how to do it with real data, with real software, and supervised by real scientists. And so they really learn how to do that. The whole initiative is to have workshops of about 30 to 40 students, plus about 10 lecturers, supervisors, and these people are there for 2 weeks. And they're very intensive workshops because really we work from 9 in the morning to 6 in the afternoon, including sometimes half a day on Saturday. And the idea is that in those 2 weeks, the students have a crash course on something related to space science or astronomy. Not extremely broad, but rather focused. So, for instance, a workshop on X-ray astronomy deals with maximum 2 missions, radio astronomy 2 or 3 radio telescopes. Well, we are organizing soon something on JWST, and we don't have experience yet, but I suppose it will be all the instruments on JWST. But we don't do a full list of all the instruments that you can take, because it's a lot of things to learn. For many of the students, it's the first time they have access to this. About 1/3 of the workshop is lectures, like 1 hour lecture on some physical topic, astrophysical topic, to give some background to the projects that the students are going to do during the workshop. But the vast majority of the workshop is about hands-on data analysis. And most of the times the projects are carried out individually. So each student has a project and a supervisor, and each supervisor supervises about 3-4 students. Sometimes in certain areas it's more convenient to do things in teams and to reach some results in teams. But in the end, the whole purpose is that they understand how to go from raw data to scientific valuable data. And at the end of the workshop, each student or each team presents their results and their analysis in a short presentation. Why do we do this? If you think about space data, the space data comes from developed countries, except a few exceptions like India, for instance, which is not, I think is not a developed country, but most of the countries that have missions that provide scientific data are the US, Western countries, and Europe. Yes, okay, it's things from Russia and things from China and now from India, but most is coming from the US and Europe. And if you are a scientist, mostly young scientist in one of these, the non-developed countries, you don't have access to those data directly. The data are public. It's not that they are not public, but you don't know that they are there. So, for instance, as I wrote a few things here, the second one, lack of awareness, is the main reason why you don't access those data. I don't know, HST data, JWST data now, all the X-ray data, all the IXO archives are publicly available now that internet is available. Yes, in developing countries, sometimes the internet is not so good. Now it's better. But even if it was, young people are not aware that those data exist. And their supervisors, if they have not been abroad, which happens very often, they don't know how to teach them how to analyze those data. And this space science data has not been part of the data that these countries have been using. They don't have launching capabilities and they don't use those data. And I don't know if you're all astronomers, but think also of data that can be used to study climate or changes or crops or water management. COSPAR looks down not just to the stars, but it looks down to the Earth, and so study things that affect human life. And so these are useful things in developing countries. So the whole initiative was to bridge this bridge this gap between having data and being in a country that you don't know you can access the data. So this initiative was taken up by Peter Wilmore, Professor Peter Wilmore from the University of Groningen in 2001. He approached COSPAR and told them, we want to do something like this. We ought to be doing something like this. You know, before the 1990s, COSPAR was founded to connect the West to the East, so Russia and the US space programs. But after the fall of the Berlin Wall, things got a little bit less strict, and so the countries could have contacts more quickly. Nowadays, again, not. But then after a while, it was not clear what was COSPAR mission. And so Peter proposed that a mission could be this, education of people in developing countries about space science. Peter passed away 2 or 3 years ago, but he took this initiative and in 2001 organized the first of these workshops, and I got invited. I was working in the Netherlands at the time at ESRON, the National Institute for Space Research, and my boss at the time, Wim Harmsen, was vice president of COSPAR, so he knew of the initiative, and when Peter Wilmore was trying to recruit teachers, lecturers, he offered me and I was very happy. And I was part of the first workshop out of the initiative. And since then, I'm part of the initiative. And since 2010, I took over from Peter, who was retired already, and I gave a different impulse to the project. So when we organize these workshops, people propose, countries propose, agencies in countries can propose. We announce them and tell them, please propose, and we have certain direction criteria. So, okay, there is science related to space science when it was COSPAR. When it's the IU, it's astronomy. There are space data that are freely available and of good quality. There is software that is free. We don't work with proprietary software that cannot be installed, that requires you to buy licenses. The workshops are regional in character, so a country organizes it. I don't know, China or India organizes a workshop, and then it's for countries in that area of the world, not people from Chile, not people from Mexico, but from that area. And if Chile or Mexico wants to have one of those workshops, then they should propose. Should lead to some active research in that region, something that they did not do before. And okay, we look at the quality of the place and internet access, and we have a lot of anecdotes of things that did not go well, but okay, anyway. After we select the workshop and we organize them in these places. And I'll show in this map where we have organized this workshop. I guess you see my mouse. The red ones are the ones that we organized with COSPAR. It's an older program, 2001 started. The green ones are the ones we organized so far with the IU, and it's much younger because we started in oops. Sorry, I don't know if you've seen that. Yes, went too fast. We started in 2022, so we only organized 3 workshops so far. But we select areas of the world that are not developed. So we don't do them here. We don't do them in this part of the world, not in this part of the world, not in that part of the world. Yeah, you may discuss whether Russia or China are developed or developing. Yeah, it's usually a discussion. But we organize workshops in China and in Russia. Sorry. And here is in Cyprus, I think it is, which is part of the European Union, but there was some good reasons to do it. But if you look at, I don't know what's happening. If you look where we do them, where we organize them, this is taken from this website. Is the number of researchers per million inhabitants in the countries, and we are always in somewhere in a range, in the gray area. We don't go to countries that are white because research there is very underdeveloped. We cannot do much if they don't have something already. So it's very difficult to start from scratch. This is not what we look for. We look for places where there are already some scientists doing some science, but maybe not familiar with space pattern or astronomy, certain astronomy archives. So we select these countries that have certain level of development. And here is a whole list that you don't have to read. But I don't know why fellowships, there is no fellowships, it's only the workshops, I believe. But these are all the workshops we organized with COSPAR in between 2001 and 21. I don't have the latest ones. There was this period of COVID where we couldn't organize any workshop because traveling was very restricted. And now things are picking up again. But we had, at that time, 43. I think now we have 48 different workshops. And you can see in the areas in the world, Brazil, India, China, South Africa, Morocco, Romania, Uruguay, Malaysia, going quickly, Argentina, Thailand. So very different places in the world, in Ethiopia, actually in a place where now there is war happening. And in areas that go from X-ray astronomy to magnetospheric from magnetospheric physics, oceanography, sun and Earth interactions, lunar and planetary surface, gamma ray astronomy, observations from water cycle, atmospheric aerosols, blah, 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 crystallography from space, I don't know, even small satellites, remote sensing. So a broad area. I'm an astronomer, but we organize things in different areas. And here I show you some pictures of workshops to give you an impression of the friendliness. This guy was Peter Wilmore, the one who institutionalized this. And you see classes, people listening to the lectures, but you also see people working behind the computers in the laboratory rooms, or showing their results in posters. Sometimes we don't have enough time for the number of students to all of them give talks, and so we organize poster sessions. Nowadays, in the past, we have the local host has to provide a laboratory with computers. Nowadays, almost every time, all the students bring their own laptops. Okay, this has changed. Again, more pictures of the same stuff and other places. And one important aspect is how to encourage interactions between lecturers and students. So what we aim at is that at the end of the 2 weeks, these two groups feel each other as colleagues. They're no longer lecturers and students, they are colleagues. And to do that, we, the main organizers, undertake several initiatives. Well, one of the things is we put them all together in the same hotels. So we don't put them, the lectures in 5-star hotels and the students in a 1-star hotel, as you might think. We put them in reasonable hotels, but not very expensive, but reasonable. And so that they have breakfast together, they have lunches together, coffee breaks together, and dinners together. We organize social activities. You see me singing there. I'm a very bad singer, extremely bad singer, but students laugh a lot when I sing. There is a colleague of mine sitting there who plays the piano. And so he plays and I sing. And then there is another one that is a juggler, so he can throw up to 5 balls in the air, so he does his act. Another one is a real good opera singer. Another one does some fancy dancing with a glass in his head. I don't know. I'm good at magic, so I'm a magician, amateur magician, but that's my thing. And so we do these things. One of our colleagues got an idea a few years ago to bring books of a play. It's called Copenhagen. It's a play with 2 characters only, Heisenberg and Bohr, and it's fictitious, but our fictitious conversation of these 2 guys during the war and what to do with the nuclear atomic power and who should have it, the West or the Allies or Hitler. And it's a very nice thing. And so what we do is we read them at night. We collect somewhere all the students, and 2 or 3 of them take part, and they read parts of the play, and we read the whole play. And we even had a Heisenberg that was black in South Africa. So all these things happen. And this makes breaks the ice in a way that encourages, fosters the relations between students and lecturers, and makes them feel at ease and colleagues. So here is again another summary page with things that I didn't remember that I had before. So we have lectures to install the software. We have lectures to download things, how the instrument calibration works, and then how to analyze the data. And then at some point, how to interpret the data, how to do science with the data. As I said, the workshops are regional, and you expect that about 50% of the participants come from other countries except the host. We don't charge anything. Actually, we provide almost for everything. If you are selected, usually we have a oversubscription factor of 3 to 5. We can only host a certain number. We have a limited budget, a limited space, and a limited number of lecturers that can supervise the students. So we can only fund a certain number, and usually it's the 30, 40. And once you are selected, everything is covered. The hotel is covered, the food is covered, there is no registration, local transportation is covered. We expect that your institution will pay for the trip to the place of the workshop. If the student is from the country itself, but any other part of the country, usually it is ground transportation available. If the students are from nearby countries, which is the region, flights are relatively cheap. Institutes can sometimes provide a fraction of the cost of that. We have some funds to support some cases where they have nothing, they find nothing from anywhere. We still can support part of the cost of the travel. But once we do that, our budget is about 70,000 euros per workshop. So, and there are a lot of costs. So it's not that we can support in full everything, but we try to. And there is also certain policy or certain idea behind not giving everything, is that the students will benefit or the participants will benefit from the workshop. So either they or their host institutions, which also benefit, should put some money, if possible. But okay, we are aware that that's even not always possible. Yes, I wanted to say something else. The students, as I have there in quotes, are not necessarily students. They can be PhD students, sometimes master students, but they are sometimes also postdocs and even young staff members. The young is not obligatory, but usually is the case. And these are people who we expect will learn something from the workshop and teach it back to someone else. So, okay, some students, if you are a student, you learn for yourself mostly, but if you're a staff member and you want to expand your line research, to give an example, if you are in a country using a local optical telescope and you realize that the science that you do could benefit from using X-rays, you can attend an X-ray workshop to learn how to download X-ray data, how to install X-ray software, how to use that software and interpret the data. And the hope is that this person will teach his or her students how to do that there. The initiative that I'm now leading, the one that is called IAU Hands-On Workshops, is only in astronomy. The one that I led before in COSPAR was space science in general. This started in 2022, as I said, and is using archives from space and ground-based facilities. We had three workshops in 2022-2023, as I wrote there, in these three areas, and about 100 students and 30 lectures in total. Notice that the one from COSPAR is from 2001 and still ongoing, so it's much bigger, many more years. But okay, the IAU contacted me, asked me to try to set up this program for them, given my experience with COSPAR, and that's what's happening. There has been a new round for workshops in 2023 to organize workshops in 2024, and we have selected already and are in discussions, negotiations with the proposers that have been selected to have two one in UAE and optical data with the ESO archives, and the other one in Poland with JWST, mostly for Eastern European countries, not for Western ones. But Poland is sort of the border between the two. And plus, we are organizing two workshops together with COSPAR, one in Thailand on JWST and one in China on X-ray. So actually, we're organizing or co-organizing 4 workshops in 2024 plus the 3 that we organized so far. And we hope to go for one more round and hopefully continue, but if the program is successful, but we have certainly money for one more round after this one. So if you're interested, we encourage you to apply. I get to that later if there are questions or what. There are 3 things that make these workshops a success. The lectures, and the lectures. Everyone who teaches in these workshops does it for free. I said there are about 10 lectures per workshop, and so okay, some have repeated, so it's about 200 lectures in total over 20 years. These people come for 2 weeks to some place for no salary. They receive 0 salary. Yes, we pay their trip, their flight, and we pay their hotel and their food, yes, but we give them 0 money salary. But still, we find many interested people that do this. They stay 2 weeks from a Monday until a Friday the week after, working formally from 9 to 6. We had workshops where we slept in a hotel and did the workshop in the same hotel. It was very convenient because you didn't have to travel from the hotel to another venue, whatever. But it was very inconvenient for the lecturers because you had dinner. After dinner, you go to the bar for a drink and relaxation with your colleagues, and then suddenly a student comes and says, "Look, I'm sitting in the computer room doing my project, and I got this problem. Can you help me?" And yes, we help them up to midnight sometimes. So it's very demanding, and these people do it for free. There is a motivation, I'm pretty sure. I get to that later, but not money. And the lectures are extremely important because they make the atmosphere of the workshop. They lead to the relations between students and lecturers. So we got, over the 20 years that we organized this workshop, we got about 3 million euros in total from several organizations that I list here, mostly COSPAR, IU, and space agencies. And I cannot remember them all. Some foundations, and of course, each time we organize something locally in a country, the country has to provide about half of the money of the cost of the workshop. So local agencies, even provinces or states or private companies have provided money. So we have been very successful to that. We also established a fellowship program starting in 2008, by which if you were a student of one of these workshops, if you attended one of these workshops, you could apply for one or twice a year for one of these fellowships, where COSPAR is the broker between you and the institute where you want to go, the laboratory where you want to go. And so we try to find the financial construction that allows you to go there for 4 to 8 weeks to finish your project there. COSPAR provides some money, but hopes to have laboratories in the Western world, developed countries, that are willing to receive you and provide some support. No salary. We don't provide salary to the fellows. We only provide travel costs and lodging and food costs, local transportation, whatever, but no salary. And so in many cases, the receiving labs have provided financial support, which I don't know how much that was, but we have received a lot of support from these people. So now let me go to the less technical thing, more motivational thing, why this happens. Let me give you the example of a person that I will only name as R.E. These are the real initials of this person. Is a man from Nigeria who attended, because of privacy reasons nowadays, we cannot say exactly the name, but for many things I say here, you could deduce who this person is, I guess. I don't know. I hope this is not in violation of the privacy laws in Europe. But this person got his bachelor at the age of 27 and his PhD at the age of 40 in the University of Nsukka in Nigeria, which is a city about 600 kilometers from the capital of Nigeria. In that year that he got his PhD, was 2004, he attended the first international conference ever in his life, and that was the COSPAR workshop we organized. It was not a conference, actually, but was this workshop in South Africa in 2004. So we organized an X-ray astronomy workshop, and he came there. He did a project there with one of the supervisors, the lecturers, and after the workshop, he continued working with this lecturer remotely. But you have to think of what remotely means in 2004-05 in Nigeria. Internet was not that good in many other places in the world. And his university only had one computer to do emailing, and it was only with dial-up internet. So this guy, more often than not, would have to go to an internet cafe to have conversation with his lecturer. Anyway, they continued doing work, and at some point, this lecturer had an old PC that he was no longer using, so he sent it to Nigeria to this person so that he could finish his work. After they finished their project, this person, put a proposal to observe with a satellite from NASA called Chandra. And this was the first proposal ever for Chandra from a Nigerian astronomy, which was accepted. Once a proposal in the US is accepted, the US gives money to the US co-investigators to do the project. So his supervisor in the course, which was an American, got money. And from that money, he paid the trip of R to the US, where they continue doing work and finish other works. I know that this person, R, who is still my friend in Facebook, has been in Japan a few times. I don't follow his career very closely, but I know that he went back to Nigeria afterwards, and he continued becoming a senior lecturer, at least in 2016. I don't know now exactly. He supervised more than 25 undergraduate students and half a dozen of graduate research projects in Nigeria. And he will have an impact on his students. So this is exactly what we wanted. We wanted someone who would develop him or herself in a way that they could do the same for younger generations in Nigeria, that without him or her would not be able to, they would not be able to do. So now that brings me to the same question I had before about what motivates the lecturers to do what they do. What motivates me to spend time on this and not being paid? I do this for free. In the 1940s, there was this psychologist, you can look it up on Wikipedia, I guess. I was reading about this in a book, I forgot which book it was. I think it was this guy called Richard Wiseman, who writes all these books about funny stuff in psychology. And this guy, I think it was him, but I don't remember now. This guy, Abraham Maslow, what he did is he collected information from interviews with many patients over the years to see what motivates people to do what they do. And he made a pyramid. It's called the Maslow pyramid. I don't have it in my slides, I think, but you can see it on Wikipedia. That at the base are the basic physical motivations, if you want: hunger, thirst, bodily comfort. That's why you do things, because you are hungry or you're thirsty. But if you move up in the pyramid, you do things because you want to feel stable or safe or protected, or you want to feel that you belong somewhere, that you have family, friends, that you are loved or whatever. Then you want to achieve something in life, be competent, get some status of because of your achievements. You want to learn, and understand the working of things, sometimes even just out of curiosity. You have some aesthetic inclinations. You like to see symmetry, order, balance, beauty, or you want to realize your own potential or become someone yourself, or you want to transcend and maybe help others realize their potential. How Maslow came to this list in this order, and whether it's the correct order, I don't say that. And you can look in this list and find why you are doing things. It brings me back to a book whose author I forgot, is the question of why, I think it's called, or something like that. And it says, why do you do what you do? Why do you wake up in the morning and go to your work? Why do you go to your class? Why do you study? Yeah, okay, you want to get a good grade, you want to pass a course, but that's not the why. The why is your final goal, motivation. Why do you study what you study? Why do you work in the place where you work? And so maybe looking at this list of things, you might realize what is that that moves you to do what you do. And I think all the lectures in my course, myself, I include myself in this, like the point that I have at the top, not because it's at the top and it doesn't make any difference whether it's at the top or anywhere, but it's transcendence. We do something for someone else to help others realize their potential. I don't say this is something you do without any interest. You don't do it, because you're a nice person and you want to help other people. There is also some personal satisfaction to feel recognized for what you do. So you help some other people, and these people recognize you, and maybe they meet you at the conference and they remember you and they come to you and they treat you nicely because you help them. They are thankful. They buy you a drink or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Or they write a little report of the workshop and they mention your name as someone who impacted you. Life is short. Well, I don't know, between 60 and 100 years, say, I don't know. And we tend to be forgotten relatively quickly. We have, I don't know, we have siblings. Our parents die before us. Our siblings sometimes last longer than us, and they will keep your memory on Earth. Your children, if you are lucky, your grandchildren and up to great-grandchildren might remember you. But after that, you're forgotten. Okay. So in a sense, you want to have an impact. Again, these people are not my children or my great-grandchildren or anything. But you spread your word over the world. I'm not trying to talk about religion or anything. It's just to make things nice. I came from Argentina, as I said at the beginning. It's a developing country, and I didn't have many opportunities. I remember when I was a PhD student there with my supervisor, we tried to write an HST proposal, and we had to navigate all the manuals, all the HST manuals to do simulations of exposure times. We didn't have a single idea of how to do that. And of course, we failed miserably because we had no idea. No one had an idea of how to do it. We never had training on that. And if you did it, you might think it's simple because you understand it now. But if no one helped you, you don't. So these kind of workshops bring you to that. And now I'm coming to the end of this. There is the value of education, as I call this slide. Someone once said, well, if you think that education is expensive, think about ignorance. How much does ignorance cost? And this French philosopher wrote about dwarfs standing on the shoulders of giants. And because I got the Jocelyn Bell Inspiration Medal, I put her picture in my talk here. But perhaps I should have put the picture of Peter Wilmore that I mentioned before. These are the giants I'm trying to stand in the shoulders of. And my goal is that some of the students of this workshop and my son eventually will stand on my shoulders. So that's it. I don't know how long it took. 45 minutes almost. I thought it was going to be shorter, but that's it. I'm done, Jake. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariano, very much for the talk. Does anybody have any questions? Alexander.
You close my sharing. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry about the delay because I'm busy with I'm using two screens and my Zoom kept jumping from one to the other. You can hear me, right?
Yep.
You're at the USS Enterprise, right?
Yes.
So thank you, Mariano. This was a very interesting lecture, and at the end, it got to my heart, I can say. I wanted to ask, when you show that map, of course, I'm regionally biased. And I noticed, even though you mentioned that in Poland you will organize a workshop which will encompass Eastern Europe, I noticed that Southeast Europe is very poorly represented. Not even a single workshop was organized there. And I wonder why, because I have some experience trying to work in some of the Balkan countries. Some of them have pretty developed astronomy, like Greece and Bulgaria, but they're not counted, maybe apart from Greece, as developed, I think. So yeah, I was curious about the reasons, and I have a sub-question as well, which is, how come, so when I personally try to organize something, let's say in Macedonia, I encounter this problem that the intrinsic interest of researchers there, which there are researchers there, by the way, Macedonia, at least on paper, has an astrophysics department with 3-4 researchers, and nowadays also returning PhDs, which know about data analysis, but I always encounter this almost resistance of organizing new things like this. And I don't know where it comes from, maybe from administrative hurdles, maybe when you say the host has to provide certain things for this program, I could imagine they would be not against it, but like the overwork would be enormous, and sometimes even the country's educational funding is so poor that until you get something, you have to jump through hoops. This demotivates local people. So if you could comment on these things, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, let me start with this. We organize the workshops in the countries where we get proposals for. We don't decide where to go. They tell us.
Yes, and this is this I forgot, and this is connected because these countries most likely, even though there are people who would benefit enormously from this for reasons, I can list them, but they're not important at the moment. They would even tend not to propose. So basically, I would have to go there and write the proposal myself, which is not the intention.
Okay,
so maybe
that part. Yeah. Yes, let me say something about that. First, in the COSPAR time, until 2 or 3 years ago, we did not have an open call for proposals. So people sent proposals any time of the year, and we did all the proposals we received as long as they were sound, because we had enough funds and not too many proposals, so we could fund them all. Maybe we had to put them in certain sequence, but I tell you, until 2018, we funded every proposal we received in COSPAR. Now there is some competition, so some proposals, maybe still we fund them all, but we move them over the years so that we still accommodate in the budget. The IEU, the IHOW initiative, in the first round we received 11 proposals and we selected 3, 2.5 because half was together with COSPAR. In the second round we received 8 and we selected 4, actually 2 plus 2 halves. So there is an oversubscription there. But okay, we don't have more money. And we're happy that it's successful enough to get twice the number of proposals than the money that we have. The only way it works is if people propose. And suppose you are now in Europe, in Western Europe, and Macedonia is still also Europe, but it's Eastern, whatever, Southeastern Europe. You can organize a workshop in Macedonia if you have the right contacts there. You could be co-proposer. You don't have to be in a developing country. The workshop has to happen in the developing country. But the main proposer could be from the US It doesn't matter. The Netherlands, it doesn't really matter. As long as we go and do it in somewhere where it's developing. And two things about funding. So you can propose, if you want, you can propose, but you need a partner in Macedonia that will be willing to host it there. The cost and the work, yes, there is work, yes, I will not lie to you, but it's not overwhelming. The 2 weeks of the workshop, yes. The 2 weeks, 3 weeks before, yes. But it takes a year from the moment that you get the proposal as accepted until the workshop happens, because there are so many things that have to happen within a call for applicants. You have to rank the applicants. I don't know. It usually takes about a year between the moment you get the proposal more or less approved and it happens. So in that period, you can, it's not that everything has to happen within a week. Yeah. Yes, during the workshop is a lot of work, and the weeks just before is a lot of work. That's one. The second is the cost. The EU provides 35,000 euros and expects that the host country provides something similar. But this is very vague statement. Because if the cost there, if the cost of living, I don't know Macedonia, but if the cost of living is low, yeah, okay, we don't need 35,000 euros if we have enough with the money of the EU, and some part, say, has to be reasonable fraction, but not necessarily 50%. Plus, what are things that we count? We count the venue, you put the venue, usually the university gives you a venue for nothing, so you can have a conference in a place, but we count it as your contribution to the venue is your contribution to the thing. I don't know, there are sometimes a laboratory, computer laboratory, these things add to the local contribution. We don't have to pay for them. You are paying for them. You're not formally paying, but the university is giving it to you. And so it's all very easy to discussable. I don't know if that's...
Okay, I see what you mean. So basically, to get back to the question, it's the reason for this region being empty is just because people haven't proposed.
Yeah. The closest to that region was Cyprus. And
which is still pretty far away.
Yeah, okay, it's in the Mediterranean, close to... I'm telling you, because, then you can go to Northern Africa, but not in the Balkans, not in Serbia, not in
Well, you mentioned the Romanian one, but I think it was not shown on the map.
Oh, maybe I forgot. Yeah, it could be.
That was the closest.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Any other questions from the audience here? Or if you're watching on YouTube, I can read your question if you have one there.
Is there anyone watching on YouTube?
Micah.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for your very interesting talk. I actually have 2 questions. So I'll just start with the first one, because you said that one of the selection criteria for when a proposal comes in is that you see if the workshop will also lead to active research. So I guess one of the things you can do is to see, okay, is there already lecturers or research departments in astronomy, but are there other factors that how do you assess whether this workshop will land in a place where it's can become research?
Yeah, we write these criteria and they're written out on the website where when we call for proposals, we write all these things. It's a bit vague, it's difficult, but yes, you're right. But you see if there is some structure there that would support science, right? Astronomy, for instance. And the leading of active research means, for instance, to give you examples, if people do radio astronomy in that country because they have experience and perhaps they have a local radio telescope or whatever, but they could benefit from doing X-ray astronomy, an example, or they do X-rays and because they knew how to do it, but they would benefit by using JWST, or they do optical because they have a local optical, I don't know, 1.5 meter telescope, and they could use ISO. You see that by doing the workshop, they already have some base where you can expand. They can prove that. They have to explain in the proposal how they expect to do that. The proposals are very easy to write. There are, I think it's 2 pages maximum. Okay, the better you write it, the bigger the chances that you get the money, of course, and you can spend more time on that or less time. But people, it's not a lot of work. It's not an ERC proposal. It's not an NWO proposal where you have to write pages and pages of science and everything. It's just generic ideas, and you have to prove that if you do that, you have a basis of students that would benefit from that there will be people attending. And of course, for instance, one thing that you look at is, do you have lecturers there that can do something? They don't need to know everything, because you're bringing lecturers from other countries to teach how to analyze data from VLA, I don't know, from LOFAR, whatever. We did that. But there are people who know radio astronomy, but they don't know how to do, I don't know, LOFAR, for instance, I don't know, or X-ray astronomy, which is my field. I have more experience on that. Yes, you know a little bit about the physics of X-ray astronomy, but you don't know how to analyze data from Chandra. Mm. And each satellite has their idiosyncrasy, I don't know the English word. So there are these little details. If you don't do this, your red data are totally wrong. And if you're not inside, you don't know. Yeah? Mm. Okay, you had two questions. I hope I answered the first one.
Yeah, thank you. So the second one is, I was wondering, because you mentioned the fellowship program, are there other ways in which you keep in contact with participants after they've done the workshop?
Yes, this is a very good question, because it's a problem. It's a very big problem. When we started in 2001, we never thought about it. But about when I was leaving in 2018, when leaving COSPAR, I started thinking about how do we know what the students did that we had in 2001. And I know, some of them I know, and I still see, but not all of them. And so we started we have lists of the students at the time, and even email addresses of those students, but those emails change, and the students move, and they disappear. And I can tell you, I know students who became directors of a program in India, or professors, people coming from South America being professors in the University of Southampton in the UK, or in Princeton in the US. And I know I know these people because they succeeded, but I don't know everyone who went to private companies. I don't know them. Mm. So we started something to try to track them. It's a very difficult thing, and if you have a good idea, we are very happy to hear it. But for instance, we thought about the Facebook group. We started the Facebook group, but young people tend not to use Facebook anymore. People suggested to use LinkedIn, so make LinkedIn groups, but apparently at some point you have to pay to do that, depending on how you use them. One thing we did is we started an app. We had a trainee who wrote an app for the telephones where you put all the information. So in essence, you have a database of all the persons who attended each of these workshops, and they can talk to each other like a chat app. And the lecturers can talk to them, and eventually the COSPAR or the IU can talk to all of them. We have to see if that works.
Yeah,
I think
it also depends, I guess, on the participants themselves and what they need. But I was also wondering, because you have like a 2-week intensive workshop, but then some students may think after a month, oh, how did this and this go? And so I was also wondering if there are like possibilities for them to catch up later on, or.
Right. So this program called Alumni, which I'm now leading in COSPAR, in which we organized online meetings, say 1 hour or 2 hours online meetings of all the participants of one workshop. We did it twice or 3 times now. And so we sit for 1 hour and someone gives a talk, or more than one gives talk. I don't know. It's sort of a 1 hour getting up to date with people. But the problem is, we would like to know the impact of this. What is the impact of the program? And the impact you can see of people going to positions, or working in companies, or in national agencies. I don't know, the Indian Space Organization, for instance, research organization. We know people who ended up working in high positions there. Actually, they are helping us now because they like the program, but you can use them also as contacts for networking. Mm. Thank you.
Yes, for sure. Thank you.
Where are you from?
I'm in Nijmegen.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Any other questions from the audience? Just raise your hand if you do. One thought I had about that, Mariano, is do you have any information or worry about how this can be causing a brain draining effect? I mean, I know you've talked about people in Southampton and Princeton who've been through the program and got there, but I think the intention of the program is to keep it. But I know from when I was running my international nonprofit, the same sort of thing happened there, that you get, once you're giving this impact, it then allows for departure from where they were.
We don't put any conditions on that. We don't say if you are in a country and we give you a workshop, you have to stay in that country. We don't say that because it's a personal decision. It's not country decision. The country, this policy is to the country. We thought about this, but we don't have a policy established. We feel that this is a country's policy. They have to decide how they do these things. We're teaching them, whether by learning they go to the US or the UK or wherever, or they stay in the country. I mentioned these cases, but I know people who became professors in Argentina or in Chile or in Brazil. I'm telling you these cases, or in Mexico after doing this, you know. But okay, once this happens, or in South Africa, and I cannot tell them what to do, where to go. And in any case, I don't think this is a bad thing either, because this person who is in the UK is a friend of mine and colleague of mine. I supervised his my master thesis because he was in the first workshop and he did a project with me, and then I finished supervising his master thesis. Then he did his PhD in Amsterdam and now is in the UK. He is established already an exchange program with Argentina, where he brings people from Argentina, young people from Argentina to the UK. Okay, so if that happens, I think they should be happy.
I think that's positive too. But it's just interesting to know, like, what level of these things
I know
are going on. And
I know, and we don't have established policy on this. I think the country should establish their policies, not us.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. But it's just, you know, hard sometimes to. It's nice to have that justification though as well, that when people do leave their country, they're still giving that something back. And I think having something in the program that encourages how that happens is good too.
Yeah, it's difficult to force them.
Yeah. I mean, you have to do it without forcing them.
You want to grow, and if growing means going to developed country is what you want to do. It's the personal interest and compared to the country's interest, say.
Yeah.
By the way, in these workshops, we have a small part for things like how to write a proposal, how to write a paper, how to give a presentation, and being inclusive. We have policies, you know, the IU code of conduct, the COSPAR code of conduct, those things exist as well. And I feel bad these days when I say we encourage interactions between staff and students. If you think it bad, you can think it bad, but I don't mean it bad. You know, these days, sometimes you have to be careful how you say these things, and especially in this talk because of the. But honestly, there is a code of conduct, and we talk about these things. For instance, in Chile, there was a person talking about discrimination of indigenous people, how they feel about it.
Yeah.
We try to make people aware of those things. We don't make a whole point of that, but there is one talk at least on those topics in the workshops.
Yeah, cool. Very good. Are there any other final questions from anyone or on YouTube?
Thank you, Pete, for your chat. I don't know if there were more because I'm looking now.
I don't see any more right now. So I would like to thank you then again, Mariano, for a great talk. I look forward to hunting you down in the corridor and talk more about it too soon.
Okay.
And again, for all our audience or anyone watching, please remember to keep the third Wednesday of the month at 3:30 p.m. Central Europe time free on your calendars for more of these webinars as we go forwards.
Thanks for coming, for the questions, those who were here. Thanks.
Thank
I'll
you.
give you a
Bye, everyone.
clap then.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.